Jerry Jeudy continues to put up big numbers with Jameis Winston. We'll tell you if you should be buying him in your dynasty leagues next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. On today's show, we are breaking down the Thursday night football blizzard between the Browns and the Steelers. At the end of the show, we'll do some promotion, commotion, players that you should be promoting from your bench into your starting lineups here in Week 12. But Kate, I want to start with Jerry Jeudy, who had another really nice outing in this snowstorm. He had 6 catches for 85 yards on 6 targets, including a couple big ones at the end of this game. He has now gone over 70 yards at every single start for Jameis Winston. Are you buying Jerry Jeudy long-term?
This is a really hard question because you look at the opportunity for Jerry Jeudy here in this offense. Cedric Tillman, I love. He's got like the size, everything you like about a wide receiver, a wide receiver one along the perimeter. Jerry Jeudy offers a little bit more of that finesse. But my hesitancy in diving into this Browns passing offense is that if I go and trade for Jerry Jeudy in Dynasty, what's going to happen next year at the quarterback position? And that is my only question mark, because I don't know if you remember, Marcus, the Browns are kind of in a pickle when it comes to not Jameis Winston's contract, Deshaun Watson's contract. I never want to see Deshaun Watson back under center for the Cleveland Browns again. Obviously had a season-ending injury this year, so like that put him out of the realm of possibility, like to bench him or whatever. But like they have a very big decision to make. And I do think that that decision is going to kind of hinge the value of all of these pass catchers, which makes it really hard to buy in right now.
Here's my prediction on Deshaun Watson. I think he gets traded next offseason. And you're probably wondering, well, why would anybody want? I think what's going to happen is that Cleveland is going to attach a pick with Deshaun Watson to one of these teams that has $100 million in cap space. Let's say New England, right? They trade him to win New England. New England gets whatever pick. Let's say it's a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick, and then New England immediately cuts him. Like, I think that's probably what's going to happen. That way the Browns can move off of him. The incoming team could get a pick, use up some of their cap space, because a team like New England isn't going to be able to spend $115 million in free agency. But this is a way to improve your team by getting, buying some draft capital.
So then who's the starting quarterback? Is it maybe Daniel Jones, who we just got news Friday morning has been released by the New York Giants? Is he a viable option for the Cleveland Browns?
My gut says no, probably not, because I think Daniel Jones is going to struggle to be a starter next year. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland drafts a quarterback inside the top 10, or they bring back Jameis for like a bridge year. And truthfully, I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to sign somebody to help them kind of bridge this window a little bit, give them some stability at quarterback. And then maybe 2026, when their cap situation looks better, that's when they'll go out and either draft or sign somebody. But I think they are going to be in the market for all of those kind of mid-range quarterbacks, whether it's Jameis bringing him back. Maybe they go after someone like Sam Darnold, who I actually think would be a really good fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. One of those type of players makes a lot of sense.
I think that's fair. And maybe that would be a fine thing for Jerry Jeudy. I think it just depends on the asking price here. I know he's been a flex-worthy option here with Jameis Winston under center, and I think that's fair. He has a long-term contract in place, which is, good for his dynasty value in terms of, a relatively stable situation for him, even if it isn't a stable situation in terms of his passer. I think the question is just like, how good is Jerry Jeudy? He's 25 years old. Is this kind of a breakout? Because he definitely hasn't been the same type of route runner
No.
merchant that the Broncos drafted him in the first round to be.
No, he hasn't. But this is also a front office and a team that did invest in Jerry Jeudy this offseason. Not only did they go out and trade for him, they gave him a pretty decent contract. And I think a lot of people were surprised when he got that contract. So maybe this is a situation where the Browns are really invested in him. And maybe they don't believe he's an every down wide receiver one, but he can be part of a good pass catching core. And on the season, Kate, I don't know if you know this, but he's 15th at the NFL in receiving yards, which again is not overly impressive, but I think you would be surprised to see him up that high considering how bad the quarterback play has been most of the year. Right now in dynasty leagues, being valued as wide receiver 57. And again, you mentioned 25 years old seems like a value.
Yeah, and I'm looking for the market, the trade market here for Jerry Jeudy, and I'm going to be honest, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy and a 4th round pick for a 2025 second round pick.
Sure. This is
Jerry
not a
Jeudy,
deep wide receiver class, by the way. So if you need wide receiver help, this is not the draft for you.
Jerry Jeudy or Jermaine Burton and Malachi Corley, both rookie wide receivers, both guys that, let's be honest, haven't been off to a stellar start as rookies.
I would take Jeudy. And
You
know how much I
get
like
2
Malcolm.
dart throws and 2 players that, I think have a lot of physical talent, but, Malachi Corley, dropped
Burton
his
is the
first.
one. He's the one that makes that intriguing because, I mean, there is a possibility that he is Cincinnati's wide receiver 2 next year, but I don't trust him at all.
He's got the off the field concerns.
Yeah.
And how about this one? I think this might be a little rich. Tyreek Hill for Jerry Jeudy, a 2nd round pick and a 4th round pick.
I would take Tyreek.
I would take Tyreek as well. So all of these trades, I could picture going one way or the other. Like I understand the market just feels, interesting. I think is the word. Like it could be a little bit of anything. So, send the offer, I guess. See what you can do. See what you can get. I don't know. It's interesting, but I do think like if you are going to invest in Jerry Jeudy, now's probably the time to do it when there are these concerns about the quarterback position. If you do believe in the talent,
100% agree.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to need to do it before they figure out the quarterback position, because once they do, price is probably going to go up.
And the last thing I want to say is I'll bet, Kate, we get a lot more trades on Jerry Jeudy over the next week. Now that it's been 4 games in a row with him producing, and let's be honest, he gets some pretty good defenses, including the Chargers, the Steelers, and then I think the Saints and the Ravens were the other 2 teams in there. So I think now that we have a pretty decent sample size of him producing at this level with Jameis Winston, I think you're going to see dynasty managers more open to trading for Jeudy, and I would be one of them as well. Let's talk about Russell Wilson, Kate, your quarterback, who I actually thought played pretty well in a snowstorm. Let's talk about him and the rest of the Steelers offense next. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude. So we're thanking people that have had a big impact in our lives. And I just want to say I've had so many awesome teachers when I was in high school and college that really helped push me to do stuff like this, to talk about fantasy football, dynasty football full time. So I'm going to go out and shout out David Bona, my 7th grade social studies teacher who helped me get to where I am today. But there's also another person in my life that I'd like to thank, and that's myself. Sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves that we are trying to make the best sense of everything going on in this crazy, crazy world. And it's not easy to do that. Here's a reminder to thank ourselves and all the other people in our lives that have helped us get where we are. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's done entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for any reason at no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. I absolutely love Game Time. It is the only ticketing app that I use when I want to go see my favorite teams play. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier than ever before. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many great features on the app, but my favorite is that you get a panoramic view of your seats in the app before you buy. So you can see like, hey, am I going to be able to see the field if there's a snowstorm in the game? Of course, I'm sitting in the third row. Or you can see whether you're behind a goalpost or whatever it is. Game Time has it available to you. Plus, they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We are breaking down the Thursday night football game between the Steelers and the Browns. Kate, I wanted to talk about Russell Wilson, who was 21-28 for 270 yards and a touchdown, did add in 10 yards on the ground. He took some sacks in the first half that weren't great. But here was my thought coming out of this game. And I want you to tell me what you think. I actually feel really encouraged about the Steelers offense after that game. And I know there's a lot of people who are down on Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith for a variety of reasons, and I totally get it. But I thought Russell Wilson bailed them out a lot of times in this game because they were some third longs after some terrible runs. And Russ continued to find guys down the field. He was accurate. He was poised. He gave them a pretty good shot to win in this game. I feel better about Pittsburgh's offense than ever before.
I think I agree with you from the standpoint of Russell Wilson. Like I definitely, we're seeing, I think, more of the shades of old Russ. Like in the first couple of outings with Pittsburgh, I thought was pretty good at avoiding some of these like bad sacks. I feel like we're seeing a little bit more of that start to edge out. But as a passer, you've got to absolutely love what you're seeing from Russell Wilson. My only like kind of point of hesitancy is Arthur Smith the answer at play caller, right? And like, are they
let me jump
Russ?
in. What do we mean by the answer? Like, is he going to be the difference?
Is he the long-term OC in Pittsburgh?
Yes. Yeah, because here's the thing with Arthur Smith. Do you think that he gets another head coaching job anytime soon?
No.
And I think he's an above average offensive coordinator with flaws. And honestly, most of these guys are, but he is so much better than what most teams have. And if you look at Pittsburgh's history, he's so much better than what Pittsburgh has had really over the last 10 years. I don't see any reason why Pittsburgh should move off of him at all.
I think that's fair. What I would really love to see is, some more, kind of involvement from Mike Williams. I would love to see a little bit of that. I think that could definitely do something to raise the floor here for Russell Wilson. He actually ran fewer routes this week than he did last week. Just a single target, literally 0 catches over the last 2 weeks, 0 receiving yards, obviously. I do think that, like, if you can figure out a way to better integrate Mike Williams into this offense, that will raise Russell Wilson's ceiling pretty substantially because of that big playmaking ability. But, like, I think the biggest thing that I want to see just in terms of, like, Russell Wilson is just I want the offense to do a better job of getting in rhythm. And I think it's not necessarily on Russell Wilson that they're not in rhythm. It's
No.
a lot of these, getting stuck in third and long because it's like run, pass, or, just I haven't loved the play calling. And I guess for me to feel good about Russell Wilson right now, despite that play calling, tells you that things are looking up for Russell Wilson. It seems like a great fit in terms of culture and everything like that. We got reports earlier this week that the Steelers plan on extending him this offseason. So, like, I think that this could be a long-term answer. And I mean, yeah, Russell Wilson only threw for one touchdown, but he's posting the yardage. I can't believe that he managed the yardage that he did under those circumstances. And it felt like he heated up. The more the snow piled on, average 9.3 yards per attempt. Um, yeah, I think all in all, I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic. But what does that mean for Dynasty? Because he is an older quarterback.
Nothing.
If he
Like
gets
he's not somebody that you want to active. Like he is a bottom of the barrel QB2 in Dynasty, right? Like that's just kind of where he is. Now he
Does
has
that change at
given
all if he gets a long-term extension?
no, because he's still not offering you anything as a rusher. And I do think Arthur Smith generally is going to want to stay pretty balanced. The reason why I wanted to talk about Russell is because if you have any of the other pieces in this offense, I think you feel really good about it. I mean, George Pickens did not have a big night, but we know what George Pickens is capable of. Pat
Yeah.
Freiermuth actually played somewhat decent last night. And going back to Mike Williams, I think there's just a chance that Mike Williams is cooked. And that's why we've only seen him get one target over the last 3 weeks. And yes, he caught it for a touchdown, but it's really hard to rely on him to be an every down wide receiver too. I think if Pittsburgh was able to execute the game plan of like, hey, we're going to go out and get Brendan Ayuk, or we're going to get Devontae Adams, or you name the guy, I think Russell would be able to support that receiver as well because he's clearly better now than he was in Denver. I just think like long term, I've been looking at this offense as one that I want to avoid almost at all costs. And I don't think I am anymore. Like, I think I'm going to be more open to the idea of grabbing the Steelers wide receiver 2 this offseason whenever we find out who that is.
Yeah, very fair. And I mean, again, Russell Wilson, for what it's worth, I mean, not the worst. Like, if he's my QB2 in a super flex league, I think that's a pretty solid acquisition. He's a guy that not many people want. I'd want to go out and, again, if you're in a super flex or 2 quarterback format, I do think he's kind of like this perfect option. He doesn't have a weekly high ceiling, but he's capable of it. Finishes the QB3 in his first start with Pittsburgh this year. You're going to get some QB2 finishes, but I feel like a mid-range QB2 is usually what you're going to get out of him. And I feel like he's probably a guy you can just kind of slate into your lineups, and you're not going to have to pay premium prices for, mid-range QB2 production.
I agree. All right. Okay, let's do some commotion. Players that we are promoting from our bench into our starting lineups in week 12. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. I know that I was checking out FanDuel's lines all last night during the Steelers and Browns games. I picked the Steelers to cover that 3.5-point spread. So once it got down to where Pittsburgh was down by 5, I was even looking at the live lines, decided against it. But still, go to FanDuel. They have lines on every single game, every single award that's coming up. We've got award season here in the NFL in a little bit. Go check out those as well. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the new Locked On NFL show. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins. Check it out wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. All right, Kate, promotion, commotion, players that we are promoting from our bench into our starting lineup. Who do you have for week 12?
I'm going to start off with somebody that I'm not like super excited about the player, but I think this matchup could just be a fantasy bonanza. And I'm talking about Josh Palmer, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers, going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who have been the matchup to target here against this defense. So I'm starting all of my Chargers wide receivers. Lad McConkey dealing with a shoulder injury, was listed as a non-participant on Thursday's estimated practice report. So keep an eye on that. But I definitely think that this is a unit that I kind of want to start all of my Chargers. Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Will Dissly. Like, I think all of these guys are going to have opportunities here in this matchup up against a secondary when I don't really have faith that they're going to be all that able to, establish the run.
That's a good call. By the way, I forgot to mention that we had our call of the year last year, Taysom Hill. Last week, Taysom Hill. We thought he was a good play. Ended up becoming the NFC Player of the Week. My guy this week, Kate, is Amir Abdullah for the Las Vegas Raiders. So Abdullah has at least 3 receptions in 4 of his last 6 games, but that's not the reason you're playing him this week. Zamir White and Alexander Madison both missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday. It seems unlikely that they're going to be able to go this week. And against Denver's defense, which has been awesome this year, I don't expect them to run the ball, but I do expect Gardner Minshew to have to dump the ball off a lot. So if you're in a PPR league and this is a rough week with buys and you just need a flex play or a low-end RB2, I think Amir Abdullah could potentially get you like 6 for 60 as a receiver this week and then maybe 30, 40 yards on the ground. I think he's a nice little play.
Do you have any curiosity about Dylan Lobby, rookie running back for the Raiders?
I do, but I'm also kind of out on Lobby after he fumbled on his first touch against the Steelers. I'm still a little bitter.
But hey, I will say, coming out of this class was one of the most productive running back receivers in all of college football. So he definitely has the receiving chops to do it. But then again, we kind of also know that is kind of also Amir Abdullah's shtick. So
yeah,
do what you will with.
I just think Abdullah is like, this is a big opportunity, and they clearly trust him as a receiver. He's going to get work. It's if you can live with the inefficiency and just bank on the volume, I think you'll be happy.
Another tight end sleeper I want to offer. How about Jatavian Sanders, who is going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, been the best matchup for opposing tight ends so far this season. We know Kansas City has been a great defense, but tight ends have been kind of their one weak spot. And Jatavian Sanders has been kind of coming on over the past few weeks, having a relatively safe floor. Like I think you can probably expect somewhere around 40 to 60 receiving yards and maybe a touchdown this week. He's one of my favorite spot starts in those leagues where I'm a little iffy at the tight end position.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, there was a league yesterday where I have Jake Ferguson as my primary tight end. He's not going to play this week with a concussion. And it was like, okay, who do I grab as a tight end? Do I grab his backup, Luke Schoonmaker? And Jatavian Sanders just got released in this Dynasty league because it's a shorter bench Dynasty league. I'm like, you know what? Sure. Why not? I think that's a really good call. Any others that you have this week? I know it's a pretty rough week. Who else do you got?
It is a rough week. And I will say, like, the bar, I think, for the flex plays does feel probably a lot lower than it usually would be on any given week. 6 teams on bye, you're not going to have a lot of opportunity there. I'm still starting, for what it's worth, Kareem Hunt up against this Panthers defense. Been unable to stop the run. Might get Isaiah Pacheco back this week, but I think still an interesting spot for Kareem Hunt, who's been like a volume king. And I mean, this Panthers defense has been allowing 100+ rushing yard games, touchdowns, you name it, to the running back position. So I actually think both of those guys are worthy starts, even if we're expecting Pacheco to get some work.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check out the show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Modjuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Enjoy the rest of your week 12. We'll be back on Monday to break it all down.